GM. GM. So, quick look at the rotations here. Some of the shit coins are pumping a little more. Ordinals, multi-bits. Most of the majors are down, which makes sense. The sell-off, not really surprising. Bitcoin moving down here. So I talked about it yesterday, where I said that I didn't think the low was in. I said over in a trading analysis that I believe the low wasn't in. And that's exactly what I was looking for, was this. One sec, let me refresh. Today's low is a target. That's what I'm expecting if we go down. So we didn't go up first, but today's low, or sorry, the low from Sunday was in fact the target. Good target too. We've taken that out. Possibly goes a bit lower. There's always the chance of going down towards this 40k zone we talked about. This is exactly what we've been looking for all along. However, if we do hold here, really anywhere within here, as long as it's above this previous low, it's going to form a sort of rising triangle sort of pattern, which usually produces a nice breakout. And the main thing I'm looking for is that 200 EMA. That's all I care about. 200 EMA, down to that, hold that, I bid. Simple. And so we're still not there yet, right? We've just pushed down into this inefficiency. There's still a gap below. So to fill in all of this inefficiency right down to here would set up the perfect retest of the 200. So my orders are set down here, ready to buy any blood that comes into this area. And what are we now? We're on Tuesday, 26th, GM, Boxing Day. And I think that before we get to Friday, we can test that 41k area. But I think, again, by the options expiry on Friday, we will be between 40 and 45. And hopefully you listened when I said way back here, after the nuke, that that's what we would do, most likely, for the next basically 2 weeks from over there. And so we have spent the rest of December in that exact range, 40 to 45. The options flows, options data is no joke. It absolutely helps, right? Bitcoin does this at the end of the quarter. Bitcoin almost never has big pumps at the end of the quarter. Now, sometimes does, and even this time we could. I'm not ruling out the possibility of a pump this week if people try to front run the flows for next year. But the main thing was, back over here, you had a good idea that we weren't going to go anywhere. We were going to stay within this range. And if we're in that 40, then every time 40 holds, you should be bidding alts, because Bitcoin's not going to break out. Alts are, and alts have gone fucking parabolic since. So that's exactly what I've used to trade for the last number of weeks, and it's worked well. I will do that again at the end of March, right, when you come to the end of the quarter. To a lesser extent, it happens at the end of the month, every month as well, but only for a few days. But end of quarter is really where you see it most pronounced. And so now we've had a real period of outperformance by alts, as Bitcoin has really lagged. And so anytime we get a little hint of a dip, people are still worried. People are still calling nuke. People are calling it to be over. And I think, again, they're just missing the fact that this is just kind of a straight grind up for alts. This is alts playing a bit of catch up from being behind all year. People forget this well. All coins were behind Bitcoin all year. Bitcoin ran up in January and in March after the USDC drama, and alts haven't had a run until now, right? Sporadically, some alts have done okay, but the alts have, and so partly I think it's just a bit of catch up that's being played, and partly it is obviously a bit of over leverage, over excitement, over exuberance. All of that is definitely coming in. But again, it's not anything right now that I'm seeing major red flags on because of what's yet to come for Bitcoin with ETF, etc., etc., etc. This is the thing. You want to be watching alts closely for when they really break their structure, because what's going to happen next with Bitcoin is almost certainly Bitcoin is going to have a big pump on the day of the ETF, right? Now, that could just fully retrace and go back down. But for Bitcoin, at the announcement, at the moment of the approval, there's going to be algo-driven, just an automatic pump based on the algos and the automatic buying, right? I don't think alts will move then, because all the capital will chase the Bitcoin announcement. What you want to do at that point is look at where your alt is, right? At that point, not before then. I know it seems like everything's going to be the top, and it seems like this should be the top, and it's like there's a lot of disbelief still. Like, it can't keep going, it can't keep going, it can't keep going. It can, and it will keep going until something breaks. But nothing's breaking yet, right? You know, your sign over here in January that the last rally was over was this big bearish candle, right? And then the bounce that came after it was your big sign. Trend weakness was shown, but then it gave you a bounce to get out. And then there was massive weakness, and then a failure to reclaim it over here. And this all took months, right? The markets might not give you months. It might just give you days or weeks. But there hasn't been any, zero signs of weakness, right? Nothing. And generally, you know, even though it doesn't feel very comfortable to you, you have to wait for the signs of weakness. This is how you are supposed to trade, right? You have to wait for a clear sign of weakness, then not panic. So if all went sideways, and there was a big drop down like that, you're like, oh my God. Most people will panic, right? And then as soon as it bounces up, that's where you exit. Maybe it goes higher, right? Maybe it goes to new highs. Maybe it chops around. Maybe it doesn't. But if it's going to be over, that's just the time to get out. That's the time to de-risk, right? And so keeping an eye on it, the market does keep testing. Again, like I mean, a lot of the stuff that's rallying. So my concerns about markets nuking is whenever it's whenever the market appears to be overly exuberant, irrational, um, too excited, and all the dog shit's pumping. Most of what's pumping right now makes sense. It's mostly layer ones, right? And that's the clear trend. This avalanche near Sui, Se, see a lot of those I'm looking at, even Aptos, none of that really concerns me that much, because there's very clearly now going to be a narrative in the bull market again for layer ones. A lot of people thought that the layer 1 thing was done and that Ethereum had won number 1 and Solana was number 2 out of the smart contract platforms, and nothing else would really matter. But that's totally not true. Because Ethereum is still slow and expensive, there's a huge narrative now around all the other aspects of whether it's parallel EVMs or whether it's data availability, which is like what Celestia does. But there's loads and loads of hype, and this is the bigger, smarter money that's realizing this. And these pumps are like, I mean, look at what one. I think Near is really a good one, right? So in the short term, Near is obviously overbought, right? In the very, very low time frame. But it's also not, if you look at it from the perspective of like 2020, 2021, right? I don't think this will happen, but I'm sure there's plenty of people who are thinking that, no, wait, what if Near does this? Because actually Near turns out to be one of the good ones, and therefore it should be up here, right? People are missing, like super missing, the forest for the trees here. So if Near is going to be a useful project this cycle, and Near ran up here in 2021 with just hype, I guess, right? And not really, the market was all just hype. It was a new layer 1. What are you going to do? Like, it pumps up, drops down. Okay, cool. Everyone says Near's dead. It's gone to zero. It's bullshit. Then it rips back, breaks out, flips that, goes new highs, and spends many months up here. This is when Near had an ecosystem, and there was, people farming, and there was altcoins, and there was all this other stuff. I'm like, all right, this is what Near could be. Excuse me. Matrix attack. So this is what Near could be. All right. So now that we're in 2023, going into 2024, and if Near is going to be a valid part of the, the space going forward, then maybe it should be above the $7 mark. Right? Is that what the market's thinking? Is the market thinking that anything down here is too cheap for Near? And that whenever the bull ends, it should be above 7. So that means that maybe it goes to 12 and then pulls back to 6. That's still a 50% pullback. Versus, are we going to 50% pullback from here? Well, many projects will do that if they're total trash. So this is going to be, over the next few weeks, a really good way for you to see what's going to have staying power and what's not. So take your 2021 coins and then just run them through that filter. Right? So that's a good thing actually for me to do on Trade of the Day. So I'm going to go through Trade of the Day and give you a little breakdown of 2021 comeback tours for some of these alts. So GM. Today I'm away, I'm traveling, so I'll be streaming later. It'll be 8 p.m. UTC for today's live stream. So GM, see you then.